Welcome everyone, we are here today in the south of Italy and we have the pleasure to be in one of the most important Italian winery. We are not, as a wine jokers we are saying it, but we are not the only one who are thinking it. In fact, as a matter of fact, I would say, the Global Wine Brand Power Index rewarded this winery as one of the most important in Italy. So, not just the wine jokers, but an important wine intelligent thinking it as well. We are at Feudi di San Gregorio and we have the pleasure and the honor to be with Antonio Capaldo, which is running the company since 2009.
Thank you very much for being here and thank you for the nice words you said at the beginning.
So, the first question you're going to ask him is, when was the company founded? And if you have, do you have an anecdote to share with us and with our friends?
Yeah, it was founded in 1986, so 35 years ago. I was 9 years old, and the story is that in 1980 we had a terrible earthquake in the area. It was one of the most devastating earthquakes in Italy. So you expected a funny anecdote. It's not going to be that one, but we're gonna find another one later. And this earthquake was a disaster for the area. And my family, which was a big family, like a southern Italian stereotype, because my dad had 11 brothers and sisters, they decided to invest in this place. Some of them left the hometown, and my dad was working in Rome. They decided to invest back in their homeland to build something meaningful after this earthquake. And so Feudi di San Gregorio was created in '86, and I have to say that this was a kind of a spiritual meaning at the beginning, but then over time, combination of luck and good choices, this grew well beyond the initial intentions. It was just to create something good for the area. This was important to really to push the movement of the winemaking here to the next level. So I believe that we played a role in the renaissance of the winemaking experience in this area.
You definitely did. Thank you very much for answering my question.
Yeah, we were, you know what? We were number 6 in the area to transform the wines in 1986. There were only 6 wineries. There were a lot producing grapes for their own consumption, but there were only 6 wineries. Now there are over 150. So over the past 40 years, the whole area.
Great evolution.
It was a great evolution, and I believe the most beautiful pages for this area are ahead of us. I mean, today and hopefully tomorrow even better.
The best is yet to come then.
Always.
Great.
Always.
So, my next question is actually really important because we spoke about Feudi di San Gregorio and everyone, I believe, knows it. However, I would say that Feudi di San Gregorio belongs to a broader portfolio holding, which is Tenute Capaldo.
Yes.
So, you managed to create a way broader portfolio catering several brands within the holding Tenute Capaldo, from Basilicata till Friuli-Venezia Giulia, which is remarkable. Congratulations on that, by the way. It is really important to stress out that you created self-standing and independent identities across the Italian peninsula. My question is, can you please explain a little bit, give an overview regarding the brands that you built across the Italian peninsula, and actually how did you manage to create such an important identity within 30 years?
First of all, as I said, the most important part of the group is of course where we are, Feudi di San Gregorio, because this is where everything started. In '86, after 25 years of experience, we decided, first of all, out of curiosity, second of all, out of love for wine and passion for wine, to find new terroirs where we could find to work. First of all, understanding. That's why the curiosity. So understanding the terroir, understanding the varietals, and then bring a little bit of our, I would say, our approach, our quality approach, but not really our recipe, because there is no perfect recipe. Even here, there is no recipe, and I believe there is no perfect recipe in wine. So we started with something that was very close to us. So we started in Basilicata, where we already had some vineyards before. In 2010, we bought a winery called Basilisco. And the idea behind having these two experiences is really to know better the grape Aglianico. Aglianico is the core grape in the red core grape in Irpinia here, but it's also the red core grape in Basilicata, where the Vulture is the same grape, but two totally different expressions because the soils are different, the terroirs are different. So the first investment was actually very close. It's like 1 hour away from here by car, 60 or 70 kilometers, on the same varietal. Then let's say we became a little bit more ambitious, no? And we tried to invest also in other areas of Italy, trying again to exchange experiences. So our people here, they work in vineyards, they go there, they come back. It's a good opportunity for learning. That's basically the idea behind these investments. And so we invested in other two areas. One is Bolgheri, Tuscany, and then in Friuli-Venezia Giulia with Sirch, which is a joint venture with the local family. And both wineries, I have to say that they are still working to develop a very good identity, but the idea behind is what you said at the beginning. Each winery has its own identity. Each winery has a great respect for the local heritage, but at the same time they try to share the same values. No? And on top of this, there is one of the most important projects that we do here is our sparkling Metodo Classico on our indigenous varietals called Double. So these are the brands, basically.
Amazing. Thank you very much for your answer. You just mentioned a keywords that is everyone is talking about the terroir before. So since we are in Campania today, we would like to know more about the Irpinian Campania terroir. So climate, weather, we know that with terroir we say a lot of things. So we would like to know what is the terroir that allows Campania to make such outstanding and amazing products year after year.
I'm jealous of this word, the French word. I'm jealous of many things of the French, to be honest. I mean, I shouldn't be, but they've been able over time, because they started before us.
Of course.
They started before us, and I think they've been able to put words that became international on concepts that, of course, were ancestral. No? The concept of terroir comes from the Romans and the Greek that were already making wine here, but the word is perfect. And the word identifies a combination of, let's say, three factors. The structural factors, so climate, weather. The second is varietals, and the third is the man. And there are, around all these three factors, there are distinctive elements here in Irpinia and Campania as a broader region. Irpinia is the center of this area, the more mountain and hill part of Campania where we are today. Now, the first thing is we enjoy a fake southern climate. So we have over 180 days of rain. Yeah. So it's not what you expect when you go south. It's a lot of rain in the right periods of the year, which allows to keep the vineyards fresh, to bring freshness in the wine. At the same time, another important structural element is that we have most of all volcanic soils, but in general mineral soils, even if not of volcanic origin. This gives structure, length, and character to, in general, our wines. But the most intriguing part of the terroir are the second and the third for me, is the varietals that have been brought here from Latin and Greek, so over 2 millennia of history. Fiano and Greco and Falanghina as white, and Aglianico as red. They all have Latin and Greek names, and as said, they have all of them share this very long history, and they only give, almost only here, they give exceptional quality result. And this is why there are 3 DOCGs in this area, white and red, in the same province, associated to 3 different varietals, which is unusual, because usually in Italy you have maybe more than 1 DOCG on the same area, but all of them are red, all of them are white, one is red and Reserva. We have Fiano di Avellino, which is 1 DOCG made of the grape Fiano di Avellino town, Greco di Tufo, or the grape Greco, the Tufo town, and Taurasi, which is the town at the center of the Aglianico most vocated production area. So the varietal is important, but I would say honestly that the man has been as important as the structural and historic factor. We still have, because this area, if you come here, you don't see many vines. The vineyards, because they're very small. There's never been intense viticulture. Exactly, there's small parcels where each farmer, we never had big estates here. So each farmer used to own like half an hectare, where they did of course the grapes, but also olive oil, fruit trees, etc. So at the end of the day, the area is very fragmented, and the man decided to plant Fiano in one area, Greco in one area, Aglianico in another area, and keep the vines in the most vocated area, and then they never overlap. So where is Fiano is Greco, it's not Greco, where is Greco is not Fiano and not Aglianico. And it was not the law, it was not the DSCG protocol that created this, but the farmers. So the man has been incredibly important. And even today we have 400 hectares divided in over 700 parcels. So an average parcel, most of my colleagues from Tuscany, they say how diseconomical this can be. And this is true, it's totally complicated to manage all these small parcels, but it's the quality of the biodiversity that
pays
we can
off,
bring.
of course.
It pays off every time. What's complicated generally pays off, otherwise you just stop doing it.
Yeah,
If it was easy, everyone would do it, right? But anyway, if I can add something, your explanation was great, but it's also really, really windy here. I mean, today I just got out of the car and the wind blew me away.
It's supposed to be like, I mean, in Naples now, they're probably 10 degrees more than here. So the difference is that we are, overall, it's a continental climate.
Yeah.
When they ask me, it's a Mediterranean. No, it's not Mediterranean. That's why our wines, when you don't know, you taste blind. Most of the time, you go up north.
Northerly character in your
finding
wines.
something similarity, you go up north because this is a northern continental.
And you
climate.
even have a lot of rain, right?
Yeah,
Rainforest.
over 180 days, which is not that. I mean, basically 1 day out of 2, you're unlucky when you come and visit us. But it's good for the terroir, as we were saying before.
Thank you very much, Antonio. Thank you.
Great answer. Well, my next one is about actually one thing that I'm really curious. We saw that you have got a huge portfolio of products, and we taste, to be honest with you, so many of them, and we love them. We love them, by the way. However, we have been particularly drawn. Our attention has been particularly drawn by a range of product which is really interesting. We believe vini unici, which is translated in English is unique wines. Well, could you just? I mean, we saw that Robert Parker granted Serpico with 97 points the 2001, which is outstanding. I mean, just this explains how great these wines could be, you know. Could you please tell us what these vini unici are and why they are so special?
First of all, we produce too many wines. I follow you. There are too many wines around there. I mean, but the problem is that the producer is always in love. It's like a kid. No, you have a kid. You multiply your because each vineyard that you see, you want to vinificate it separately. So at the end of the day, it's difficult to reduce the number of wines, rather increase it. So unfortunately, it's true that sometimes the Italian producers in general, they produce too many wines, which is confusing sometimes for the consumer. But as you were saying, this was not the point of the question. But I think that we have a range that is quite broad to represent different varietals in different soils in different some zones, and having many wines also is allowed us over time to select the vineyards that are really distinctive. Now, unique wines, of course, everyone can say my wine is unique, and I'm not pretending that my wine is unique compared to another producer. My wine is unique in my range. It's unique in my range because over 35 years of history and experience, we were able to say that these wines, this parcel, these grapes, they really were outstanding vintage after vintage. So it was a title that they gained on the ground, like you play in sport. Now you really win on the ground, on the field, and you win. No, actually there are 3 that are the most, what we call unique wines. There are 2 single vineyards of Aglianico. One is called Piano di Montevergine, and the other one is called Serpico. They're both 100% Aglianico. They're both in the area of Taurasi, and they are one in front of the other. These two vineyards. The striking thing is that they couldn't be more different. They are totally different one from the other, and we apply different also aging protocols to both of them.
That's so fascinating, you know, amazing. I mean,
yeah, but basically, and I think people are not surprised if in Bourgogne you do 10 wines out of 1 hectare.
True.
Actually, we need to be braver here and start communicating that, because this area, for the reasons I said before, so fragmented viticulture, every vineyard can be a crew. The problem is that we are not confident enough in the consumer. Actually, the consumer is much smarter than we are, but sometimes we believe, the consumer is not going to understand. Let's do 1 Taurasi, let's not do 10. But actually, I think that level of curiosity is increasing, and I think we can start talking about different wines and different parcels more. The third Vino Unico that we produce, so 2 are Aglianico, single vineyard, and the third is a single vineyard of Merlot called Patrimo, which is a surprising wine because it's a 70 years old Merlot. Merlot was not allowed here, so the guy who planted it didn't follow the law, and so he registered as an Aglianico, but it was not definitely not an Aglianico, it was a Merlot. So when he sold the vineyard to us, we understood, of course, it was a Merlot, and we asked it for being the varietal to be registered, because actually it was there since a long time, and we were granted to do a Merlot. So it's the only one Merlot that is produced in this area, and it's interesting because, of course, it's a beautiful vineyard, it's a beautiful wine, but for me, it's a very educational wine because everybody knows what a Merlot is. So, in a way or another, through the lens of a known varietal, you understand even better this terroir. And it's unique by definition. So there is no other Merlot in this area. So you see this fake southern. So the wine is rich in alcohol, which is typical also of Merlot. It is very bodied and rich, but at the same time goes in the northern elegance. So these are the 3 wines that we call unique wines.
I have never thought about this point. Thank you very much. It was really interesting regarding Merlot, what you said.
Yeah, I think it's education.
Yeah, it's really education.
Like what we do with the sparkling now, because the sparkling is a lot of technique. Sparkling, to do a good sparkling, first of all, you need to manage the technique now. And we had enormous problems when we started making double, which is our sparkling. Now, because the sparkling is a certain protocol, you even understand even better the terroir. Even if we use Greco and not Chardonnay.
Don't share so many things with our friends because that's another question.
No, wait. Sorry.
You're going too far.
Sorry.
I mean, it was amazing for real, and we made our homework home. So by studying your website, your brochure, we saw that all the Vini Unici share one thing in common, apart from the fact that there is also a little percentage of Merlot, as you said before. Aglianico, Greco, and Fiano are the main actors when it comes to Vini Unici, but then there is another great variety which is totally unknown. We didn't know it before, Sirica. It's something, as a wine geek, the first thing we did was to go to study in our book Wine Grapes, Jancis Robinson, if this grape variety.
We didn't find it.
And we didn't find it because there's not there Sirica, because the book was written before. So please, can you share with us what?
My major respect for Jancis, first of all.
Yeah, of course.
So it was our fault if the varietal is not in the book.
No, not your fault. I mean, she wrote it before, so now you can share with our friends something that no one can know because
actually there are there are 3 in the area of the Razim. There are 3 vines that are like trees, like 3 meters tall, big, really like trees, 200 years old apparently. Nobody really knows because you have to cut it, you don't want to cut it. No, so at the end of the day, the farmer says my grandfather already had it, and then we found a way to, in a way, put a date on it, which is an age on it, which is approximately 2 centuries old. In this, we found when we discovered and we studied the DNA with the University of Milan and Naples, with these studies, and we understood it was not Aglianico. It was actually a varietal that had a lot in common with Shiraz, with Teroldego, with Refosco. So northern varietal actually. Shiraz in Italy is mostly, is even not that present to be honest in Italy, but if so, it is more northern than southern. And this tells a story that is pretty similar probably to the Merlot, so that people coming from the north to work here, they brought their own varietals and they planted here. From these 3 varietals, for these 3 vines, we planted a new small vineyard from the gems, 3 hectares, and we started producing Sirica. We started producing Sirica, I think, it was like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, so it's relatively recent. And the wine is different from an Aglianico because it's much sunnier, to be honest. It's much lighter. At the same time, it's rich like a Syrah could be. So it's a new, I mean, we are just at the start. Now the clones are available to everybody. So if people want to plant it, they can plant it. But it's a wine thing. But I think it's interesting because, first of all, the wine is good, which is important. The second is that it's a little element of the story that in southern Italy there are thousands of indigenous varietals that disappear.
Maybe no one knows. Right?
Probably some of them there were good reason to disappear. So maybe Sirica even, there's no real reason that in the future is going to be a blockbuster wine. Maybe not. But I think for us, R&D, I mean, research and development is so important in pharma, in chemicals. R&D is important in wine. So when you study clones, when you study varietals that disappeared, when you study your own vines, you learn a lot. I mean, there is a vineyard that is called the Serpico vineyards, to go back to Evini Uci.
Yeah.
It's a Prefilosera vineyards. They're all Prefilosera, all big trees. Each vine today is different because over time it evolved in a different way. They have leaves that are different one from the other, and they were probably originally the same clone. So our R&D sometimes to look, I mean, for the future, we look back. We try to understand what's in the vine. We try to understand.
Amazing.
So the tradition is incorporated, the heritage is incorporated in the vision in this winery, and I think it's part of our work. So maybe, as I said, it's a wine, for the moment, it's a wine geek. We love it. We taste, we are going to taste it, and it's a wonderful story. Maybe it's not going to be a big thing in the future, but it's helping us a lot to understand more about ourselves, our history, our legacy.
Thank you very much. I mean, that was amazing. We really want to try that one because basically that's
We're going to do it later because we didn't do it yet. So
Perfect,
Thank you very much.
So, you said it first, research and development are really pivotal in the world of wine. Well, this actually leads to my next question. FeudiStudi, which is a big project, I believe we can call it so, which we came to know by looking at your website, your brochures, and it is really interesting as far as you can see. Could you please share it with our friends? What is FeudiStudi? What is it about?
FeudiStudi, first of all, starts from what I said before. So we have so many small parcels in each of the DOCG. So it was a project starting from the frustration. So, I mean, it was not a project starting only for communicating something, but because we were a bit frustrating that we had to blend the result of the different parcels into 1 or 2 or 3 wines. So we said, why don't we try to vinificate even small parcels, 2,000 bottles each? Why don't we try to vinificate them? And maybe we don't sell them, but we use it as educational wines to understand. And we decided to select vineyards that are more expressive. They may be not the best, but actually they are the most expressive ones. So one is in the 900 meters, the other one has a crazy exposure, the other one has chalky soil, particularly in the Greco that are a little bit weird. The other one is on sulfurous mines, again in the Greco. So they are like specific areas that can show the variety or spectrum of wines that within each DOCG we can produce. So we started in 2012 making wines, 2 Fiano. Then the following year we were making 4 Greco, 4 Fiano and 2 Taurasi. And then we started. And so now that we have a collection, it's a small library of these wines, small number of batches, now small number of bottles, but we use it to explain to everyone that wants to know how many different expressions each varietal can have. And there is a tasting for you coming tonight and one FeudiStudi. And then, so it was a project starting from drinking, first of all, and then now it's becoming also a real academic project because we've written 2 ebooks, one on Irpinia and the second one on Taurasi, and then this year we're going to finish the one on Greco and the one on Fiano. So ebooks that they tell the story, first of all, because there is no real codified encyclopedia on the area, so we do it. And then they put the maps, which are interactive maps, that you can show each of the sub-zones of each DOCG, and then you can select the wines, not just us, our wines, but also the wines of other producers, because the idea is a little bit a project for the whole terroir, not just for us.
Is it possible to buy the book? Is it
online?
No,
the book is possible to buy it on Amazon, but I think that we are going to release a new edition soon because we found out we have some update to do. But I'll keep you posted. But most important, I think, for people are particularly interested, we are very happy also to give it to them because I think the important for us is really to create the reputation and
awareness.
The knowledge and awareness. So there is a price on it, but our objective is not really to gain money, it's not to put a value on the work, because we worked also with a journalist here, we worked a lot to codify all this, but actually we're happy if your guys, your followers, they want to just know, they just reach out, we're going to give it to them and they can just read it, which is great for us.
This is amazing. I mean, the fact that R&D has always been on top of your priority, and you are showing it with the creation of this ebook that actually is born to educate people, to let them know, actually, to understand the terroir. We can say that word now because here there is an explanation of the Campania terroir thanks to these ebooks. So that's really amazing. And you have been able anyway to create, to innovate, even in this tough year, 2020, that was an awful year for many businesses.
There's been better years, yeah.
But
There have
anyway,
been better years.
in terms of, you have been able to create 2 more products to the already broad wine portfolio, Goleto and Gulielmus. Could you please share with us some interesting information regarding to these 2 new products and what a consumer should expect from them?
Yeah, 2020 was as you said, it was not an easy year, but at the same time, it gave us a lot of time for thinking, prioritizing, thinking about the future priorities. So I think for every one of us, not just professionally, even personally, it was maybe too long, all this, but let's hope it's finished. But I think we had time to, to put things in the right spectrum. So there was not all bad. Now, in 2020, we released these 2 wines. They were, one is the white Goleto is a 2017 vintage, and the red Gulielmus is a 2015 vintage. They tell, first of all, there are 2 single vineyards of Greco and of Aglianico, and they come from the FeudiStudi project. So in the FeudiStudi, we selected, this was our objective, now we selected 2 parcels that are even more expressive than the average of the others, and we decided to produce these wines under our name, my wife and myself, because after 35 years, it's also time to put things, there is something personal also going on there. So Feudi di San Gregorio is rather, and I think it was a key of our success, it's a rather impersonal name. It's a name with a lot of history because Gregory the Great, the Pope, was starting making wine in the 6th century here, so it's a big story. But at the same time, the fact of associating our family, Tenute Capaldo, with producing wine in this area, where we are leader today, I think it's important. So we decided these 2 wines, they don't belong to Feudi range, they belong to this personal project. And we decided also that starting from these parcels that were really, really peculiar and selected, we decided to push the vinification process a little bit further. So each of the FeudiStudi, and in general our white wines, none of them goes through oak, because actually they don't need to, because they have so rich in the primary, secondary flavor. There is no really need to go to show your muscles as a producer. They just do the minimum as needed to enhance the varietal as it is. At the same time, on Goleto, we decided it was also time to try to play in a different field. So we decided, okay, let's try to see, after all this experience, let's try to do a little bit of a different vinification. So we went in French for 12 months in French tonneau, and then 2 years in the bottle. So Goleto is which we're going to taste tonight, is a rather difficult wine, different wine from the others. But at the same time, I think we selected the right parcels to have the oak aging without being overloaded with the oak, without being suffocated with the oak, because this is a disaster otherwise. On the Taurasi, we did the rather opposite concept. So Taurasi is so rich in everything, rich in alcohol, tannins, color, structure, everything. So we decided, what happens if we do a Taurasi Reserva, but we extract less? So it's not, for me, it's a very nice experiment. It's an Aglianico, but at the same time, it's immediate, it's very elegant, and it's very simple in the best way. Sometimes people that create things like we do, they don't like the word simple because it looks like you're doing too simple. But actually, simple is a great word. Sometimes people that drink the wine, they're just drinking wine, they're just enjoying this. So Gulielmus, the idea of Gulielmus is really to try to vinificate Aglianico in the simplest possible way. And it's different from the other Aglianicos we do, because, and again, we believe that parcel is the right one to minimize the extraction and see what happens. We only use very used barrique, so we do really the minimum needed, and then we release the wine. So it's another angle of Aglianico, where this varietal that usually is so big in everything. I think it's a little bit managed in a non-sophisticated way. It's managed in a way to express its best without being overwhelming, which is typical of Aglianico.
Guys, less than 6,000 bottles of the product, so we are really lucky if you can try them. But if I were you, I would definitely try to get 1 bottle, guys. You can put your hands on them right away. I wouldn't miss that if I were you.
However, Campania isn't just about great still red and white wines, guys. I gotta say this. I was so happy to read on Tom Stevenson's book about champagne and great sparkling wine across the world, to see that Campania was there with Feudi di San Gregorio. So I made some research, of course, and I realized that Feudi di San Gregorio created basically, it is actually separated, but it is still in Campania. And of course, Antonio is going to explain it a little bit better. The double project. I mean, what was? Here is it, one of those. Look at how beautiful they are. It might sound kind of odd to think about sparkling wine in Campania, but Antonio is going to explain us why it isn't actually odd. I mean, what was the sparkle that inspired you to focus on fine bubbles? I mean, you have been a pioneer even on this.
Yes, we've been a pioneer on this, but to be honest, there've been, let's say, on one end, the varietal have the characteristics because they have the minerality, they have the acidity, freshness. So we had a kind of an idea that this could work. Secondly, there is an area not far from here, in Aversa, Caserta, where they produce Asperino. Asperino is a sparkling, natural sparkling sometimes. Natural, I mean, sometimes the sparkle just happens in the tanks.
Naturally, yeah.
And in the past, they used to, when they harvested this varietal, they used to leave, you know, the boxes in the caves to pick them back the following day, and the fermentation happened overnight because of the humidity, and the sparkling happened. No? So it was something that was mentioned in Plinius the Old books 2 millennia ago. And Asperino is exactly the same DNA of Greco. So actually, we have a story. Let's not say we have a history. We have a story, which is usually useful in Italy. We have a story that these varietals could work. We have a technical idea that this varietal could work. We didn't have any knowledge of the technique, and this is where it becomes odd because we started, and honestly, it was a disaster. The first 2 vintage, we had to throw everything away because when you do a still wine and when you do a sparkling wine in the same spaces, this doesn't work. And we were consulting with a great champagne maker, Anselm Seros, who was consulting us at the beginning. He didn't know that because, of course, it was not producing still wine. The two things don't go because the bacteria that are naturally produced by still wine, if they are around in the same area, they can stop the second fermentation. So it's particularly detrimental. So 3 vintages out, even if we were convinced. And I think the good thing about this project is that it showed the power of regeneration of our winery, because honestly we decided let's stick to it because we are convinced.
Keep on trying.
Yeah, we've been determined, and we separate the spaces, we restarted from scratch, and honestly we've been successful so far. It's the biggest sparkling brand in Italy. If you take out, of course, Franciacorta and Trento Doc, in the so-called outsider regions, is the biggest brand of Metodo Classico. And I think here really the best pages are ahead of us because we need to extend the aging process. So, for instance, we are now at over some of the cuvée, they are over 5 years on yeast. I think not maybe 10, it doesn't make sense, but probably 7 years is our objective, because I believe that the Greco can express even more with this aging. So again, let's keep posted because I think we are going to improve on this now that the basics are fixed.
Of course, I believe that you can keep on improving this.
You can always keep improving.
Of course, but especially on sparkling wine, there is the reserve wine, the perpetual reserve, exactly for the liqueur d'expedition, to add complexity and that extra texture that you...
Consider that until last year, we were only doing millésime, but not because of a choice.
Because we didn't have any reserve wine.
We didn't have any reserve wine. Now we have a selection of reserve wine. Now we have some zero dosage and some dosé. So it's learning.
Guys, once again, the best is yet to come. So.
This is exactly what happens if you think about it in Prosecco. They write millesimato in the bottle, but actually that's the only thing it can be. No one actually can blend because it's for early consumption, early drinking wine. To give you immediate pleasure, so they don't make something complex. But anyway, thank you very much. It was really insightful as always. So I just want to share with you this interesting fact. Funny maybe. We were 3 years ago with my brother, 4 years ago now, in New York City, and we were in Sorbillo restaurant eating an amazing pizza with mozzarella di bufala. and we were sipping one of your wine, a rosé. It was just the perfect pairing. But apart from it, what I want to say is that Feudi di San Gregorio is everywhere in the world. I mean, we are not here to say that you export in a lot of places, in a lot of markets. But what we would like to understand, since you started in 1986, what are the main markets where your products are, and if you can share with us some markets you would like to be in the foreseeable future?
Yeah, we are in many countries. At the same time, the pie of Campania wines is still very small. So I think we are not outside. I mean, we are mostly present in the Italian restaurants, which is great because Italian restaurants are everywhere. Yeah. But our objective in general, and then I will answer to your question about the countries. Our objective in general is to go beyond that, to pass this, this border and go in the American steakhouse and go in the English classical restaurants and go in, the French restaurants. In the Italian restaurants around the world, the fine ones, we are almost everywhere. There is a Campania producer, there is us or a few other producers. So the most successful, the countries that are most interesting for us are US, Germany, Japan, Switzerland, which are Canada, which are generally the biggest countries for Italian wine export in general, and also the countries where there is the most important Italian restaurant business. In Japan is one of the biggest. In USA there are many Italian restaurants, in Germany as well. Our objective is now, of course I could answer China, but I think as an ambition, but honestly my ambition is still to go in the American steakhouse. So my objective is really to go in these countries and gain momentum outside of the Italian restaurants, because I think that I want people to understand, maybe more on the whites than on the reds, because I believe that on the whites there are not many areas that are as vocated as Irpinia to make great white wines. Find our space in the head of the consumer, not just because he's drinking Italian or he's eating Italian or eating a pizza, he has to drink something that is Italian as well, but just on, in general, he wants to drink a Greco or a Fiano. I believe it also on the reds. Of course, I'm in love with Aglianico, but I think competition is tougher there, also from the new world. I believe on the whites we have an enormous space and we need to work on that.
I totally agree with you. I think that in the white spectrum you can find the blue ocean over there. I mean, there are no other offers.
There are no sharks on the sea.
Yeah, there are no sharks.
No, there are little.
Less,
honestly, almost. I mean, to be honest, authentic areas where the wines have a minerality that is not most of the people understand exactly what it is, because we don't. I mean, wine geeks, they generally don't explain it very well. But actually, is what makes a pairing wonderful for white wines. So minerality, freshness, structure. These are things that are natural here. Yeah. Consider that, on the other hand, we don't work with residual sugar. We have very dry wines. I think these characteristics, they are really makes our wines make our wines quite unique. Yeah, so I believe we have a space in particular, because most of the white wines, they're going more towards residual sugar and more heavier, which makes it a little bit more complicated to drink the second and third glass, which is always the objective at the end of the day.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you very much. Last question.
Okay, so concentrate.
I think we can all agree that you are pioneers and you have been innovating since 1986. I think we can all agree on this. My last question is about a market which isn't perhaps really well known in Italy, because I saw on your website that you were importing Fukumisuya sake.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, which is one of the only exclusive importer for this prestigious sake. Yeah, exactly. Which is one of the most ancient sake breweries, dated back in 1625. I mean, why did you choose to import this brand of sake?
It's odd, huh? First of all, there is Japan. So there is an affinity of culture. This winery has been designed by a Japanese architect. Even for earthquake resilient questions, because this, after the earthquake, was created with a very specific architectural landscape. So there is a connection with Japan. Japan is a very important market where there is a culture of wine and culture of precision, culture of perfection that we love. if you turn your hand, I mean, do you have a book, Japanese book, Hokusai pop up just under your underneath your iPhone? So there is Japan a little bit everywhere. We love Japan. We love the idea. My wife and I, we love the idea of precision AI. Also, we love sake as a kind of, I don't want to say religion, but as a way that there is a very specific methodology in producing it, and the refinement and the quality is really something that is meaningful. So I believe that proposing our wines together with high quality product like a sake is great. And I believe there is also commercial reason. I think that you want to find new angles to communicate, particularly when you talk about high-end restaurants. The pairings now are becoming increasingly sophisticated. Exactly. Sake can go in a Michelin star restaurant as paired with the dish, and then they can have 1 hour wine. So for us, it's a good way to talk to customers about something new and an unusual, flavor profile. There is an ethnic trend in Italy growing. London is already in London, New York is already well established, but in Italy it's growing. So it's a mixture of affinity and commercial reasons. People are great, by the way, over there. The visit has been stunning, and we are proud. Of course, the market is very tiny, so it's more. I mean, I think we drank like a third of what we imported ourselves, but it's great because I think that sometimes it takes time, and I think it's one of these cases in which some of the customers we found they are particularly intrigued. Most of the customers, they don't know how to manage it because their customers are not interested in buying it. But for some of them, this is something very interesting. And for us, this product is not for everyone. It's for having an interaction with customers that normally we don't have an interaction because they either work exclusively with sake or with very specific wine list.
Thank you very much, Antonio Capaldo, for your time, for answering all
you,
our
Antonio.
questions. I guess, guys, that after watching this interview, all the Feudi di Gregorio wines will taste even better if that is possible.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.